Welcome to Words with Willy and Karl, featuring Father Willy Crespo, the rector of St. Timothy's Episcopal Church in San Diego, and Karl Streeter, the administrator of St. Timothy's and lover of theology.
Well, welcome again to Words with Willy and Words with Karl. Nice to see you again. It's been a little while. Today, Karl and I are going to be discussing the issue of Lent. But before we do, I want to turn it over to Karl so that he can introduce himself again, and then we can get started with our short conversation. Karl?
I'm Karl. I'm the Karl of the Words with Willy and Karl. I am the administrator here at St. Timothy's, but I am also a lover of theology. And in this session, we're going to begin to talk about Lent, and we're going to begin to talk about it in the traditional sense, and then we'll explore what it means to us now. So, Father, give us a little history lesson on Lent.
Okay, well, the Lent is based primarily on the time in which Jesus was tempted in the desert, and it's a 40-day period that set out between Ash Wednesday and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, which is on Easter Sunday. It's 40 days, but does not include Sundays, because Sundays are celebration days. So those are days in which we do celebrate Eucharist, and we do celebrate the resurrection at that point. But during the week and the other days, we use those 40 days to reflect and to look at our lives and our relationship with both God, others, and the world. And it gives an opportunity for us to perhaps take on a discipline in which we want to choose to get closer to God, maybe reading, maybe prayers, maybe meditation. And we also generally take an opportunity to not do certain things that are pleasurable to us for the sake of just being able to offer that as a sacrifice, as a way of offering a gift to God, and using those two as a way of drawing closer to God during this time.
Yeah, and so some of my friends don't say to me that giving up vegetables for Lent is really not the intent of that. And as you were talking about it, I thought about this idea of Jesus being tempted, it's in struggling, not a temptation of taking that candy or all that, but I think Jesus struggled with who he was, and I think. The devil in the story kind of what do you call it? Really went after him on, hey, who are you? Are you this great thing that's going to save the world and all that? So he struggled with who he was, and so I think it's very important to ask those big questions during Lent. So. That's kind of traditionally, but we celebrate it every year. And in this pandemic, currently, I think you have some ideas about how we can put Lent in those contexts for us today, and for the emphasis and theme of St. Timothy's as we move through this season.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Karl. I think that given the COVID that we've experienced and are still going through, we've lost many people. People have died. People are still sick. People have been stressed and lost jobs. People are unemployed and barely staying in their homes. These are tragedies that we're all experiencing, and it gives us an opportunity, I think, to look at the overall process of how we are a nation together or a world together. How is it that we work together when a big issue like this happens? Do we fight among each other? Do we take sides about who's right, who's wrong? Or do we pull together in a way that makes us stronger and overcome the challenges that we have? And it's a time for us to reflect where we've gone wrong. And we can use the COVID as the very issue of reflection during Lent. How is it that we missed the great disparities that we now see very clearly during the COVID pandemic, such as economic disparities between the rich and the poor, or racial disparities between, whites and blacks and anybody not white. How do we look at the treatment of the earth and how the earth itself, even this particular virus, may be a call to us to wake up to our relationship with creation. So it's a perfect time for us to begin to think about what are we doing here? What are we doing with each other? How, why such stress? Why such animosity? And especially when confronted with a deadly disease, is this the best that we can come up with, or can we come up with better ideas to get along? These divisions that we've created, are they necessary? Are they permanent? Can we change that? Can we look at each other with new eyes? Can we look at the relationship of the world with a new spirit? I think these are perfect themes that St. Timothy's is beginning to look at, and we'll go through in the Lent period.
So what I kind of understand you to say is that it's less about where Karl or where Willy is about in their lives, but where does Karl and Willy fit in the grand scheme of things? Where does Karl fit in the racial divide? Where does Karl fit in the climate crisis? And I think this goes along with what Jesus struggled with. He struggled with his identity not as an individual, but as a mission of where he was going forward in this process. And so I think that's kind of an interesting look at Lent is to woe is me, I'm a bad sinner and stuff, but in context of the whole and essentially the sins of the world. I didn't individually create the crisis, the climate crisis, but I do have a responsibility. We have our friend Heschel, Abraham Heschel, who said few are guilty, but all are responsible. And I think putting ourselves in the contents of that, so we don't become just victims of our own sinfulness, but what we can do to be a part of rectifying the sin of the world.
I think that's another point that's very well taken. We spend too much time focused on the individual, on the individualism, and to our detriment, because everything else has had to pay the price. I think if we start to think collectively, connectively, with the world and others, that this is what we're being called to, especially with this pandemic. I mean, you cannot take sides. You have to be together in addressing the problem. When Jesus was tempted in the desert, he was tempted by the world. He was tempted by gluttony or food to excess. He was tempted by power. He was tempted by riches, and he was tempted to be self-serving. And all of that he gave up, and he referred to the Bible, and he referred to God as a God of all. And what he got there was a clear vision of what his mission would be. And his mission would be to be part of the world, to work with the world, and to make the world aware of how important each individual action and person are. And so that we should sense a holiness about us in the world that we've neglected. And this is a perfect time for us to be awakened and reminded that we are not islands. We're interconnected and interdependent. And that's really the call for Lent this year. I think that we want to emphasize as St. Tim's.
I love the word awake. That we've been asleep and awake from that. All right. Well, I think we can leave it there, unless you have a few more words to go. But I think,
I would actually. I'd like to invite the people to come and join us on Ash Wednesday. We're going to be hosting a parking lot welcome Ash Wednesday service. We won't be imposing the ashes, but we'll be giving you the ashes if you come up. We'll be saying a prayer with you. There'll be some music and a nice little program that you can take along with you, and give you an opportunity just to think a little bit about what your life can be like, what our world can be like, and those areas that we need to change and come together. It could be very hopeful if we look at it in the future, and I hope that we can all participate in the service. So it's going to be on the 17th. We're going to start from 1 to 7 o'clock in the parking lot, in the front parking lot. So if you can come by, it'd be great to see you, and it'd be great to share with you that moment. So thank you.
Yeah, and our hope is that you take the liturgy and you take the ashes, and you and your family or loved ones park and listen to the music and meditate and impose the ashes, and kind of reflect, as opposed to just grabbing it like a Big Mac and then taking it home. We hope to have you opportunity to pull into one of the stalls and just take a moment of reflection. And then I think it's a beautiful drive-through ashes. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. And if that's all that we're going to do for today,
Today, but for today, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that is, we appreciate your time. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube page and give it a like. And remember, wisdom begins with wonder, vulnerability, and a good conversation. Good day. Bye-bye.